crystals and the melanin, how it influences our health. Most of us are somewhat aware of this melanin issue because we find a lot of black people today who have these white spots on their skin. People say, where are these white spots coming from? So I figured I'd just start out with the white spots, let you know you're not leaving the race. Just doing something nutritionally irresponsible. Now, as you can see, what causes the white spots is a melanin deficiency, either from the internal organs. The internal organs need the melanin, so they draw it out from your skin, because they're being attacked either by synthetic foods or radiation, various sources. And also in the case that there's a lot of cellular waste, food waste, constipation. Most of the waste in your body gets processed out through your kidneys. What comes out through your bowels is food waste, and people get that kind of confused. They think they're having a bowel movement, their body's cleansing. That is not the process. The cellular waste is what you need to cleanse, and that goes with the kidneys. And most of the waste that is in the bowel movement is not food anyway. 3/4 of the bacteria, their skin, mucus, water. It's not really that much food in it. Now, the other thing that causes white spots is sunlight deficiency. We are not getting enough sun. We're always in these caves because people who taught us, they are used to caves. So we got to go in these little caves that y'all call office buildings and schools, where our schools were outside and we used to getting a lot of sun. But we suffer from a sunlight deficiency, which causes a melanin deficiency. Then retention of waste in the body due to salt addiction. A lot of us have this salt addiction. We're absolutely addicted to salt. The body is trying to get rid of the water, the waste with the water, and then the person takes salt and it keeps the waste in. So you're making your body toxic. So we got to get away from the salt, but I'll talk about addiction as we move along. Now, radiation toxicity is caused by television, computer cables, low-frequency radio stations, lights that go on 60 cycles per second, which decrease the vibratory force of your pineal gland. People are addicted to radiation. It's a toxic poison. People get addicted to toxic poison. Some of them are called alcohol. Some of it's called marijuana. Not the leaf itself, but when you burn it, you make a chemical. So we get addicted to toxic poisons of all sorts. And people are addicted to radiation. Absolutely addicted to it. And the Europeans keep us addicted to it by radiating the food, by taking the price when you go to the stupid market. And they take this thing and they run it on this belt and they radiate the food. That's too toxic. Then our lymph glands try to get rid of the waste and neutralize it, and then the lymph glands get clogged up. Excessive sexual sex stimulation, which is also addiction, I'll go through that later on, that causes the melanin deficiency too. Loud sounds, which causes the skin to vibrate at a higher frequency, which shuts down the melanin supply that comes to the skin, causes the white spots again. Then we have this toxic liver. All toxins go to the liver. White sugar, bleach white flour, acidic acid, which you call vinegar. All of these toxins go to the liver and cause the liver not to be able to metabolize the food, not to be able to neutralize waste in your body, not to be able to store enough energy to feed your brain. Because the liver gets toxic, you're unstable to metabolize food properly. You can't digest your food properly, you end up with a lot of gas, a lot of burping, a lot of farting, all these kind of things. Then your body gets too acidic. And the acid is like carbonic acid, which you have in soda, which is a poison, which will cause cancer. This kind of acid burns up the nutrients before your body can utilize it. It also demineralizes the bones. Then the person eating a lot of refined carbohydrates like bleach white flour, white sugar, they'll spike a yeast infection easily. Yeast infection of the brain, yeast infection of the reproductive system, and a fungus-like infection, which people call yeast infection, called Candida albicans. All this comes because you don't have enough melanin to defend your body, to stabilize your nervous system, and to steady your state. Now, so now we're all aware of that I've gotten through the spots there. Now, before I get into the rest of it, I thought we ought to just be aware that what I'm talking about is a black science known as nutrition, health, comes from African people. This is in Hotep, who was responsible for putting together one of the compendiums of medicine, one of the most complete medical books. I said putting it together because a lot of the writings in it are older than in Hotep. Some of them were done by ladies. There were doctors before Hotep. Shekhet was one, Esmenu was another, Hersey was another, Menopause, whose father was what you call Memphis, Menor, the guy who put together the Upper and Lower Egypt. His son was a doctor. So there were many doctors before Hotep. This is a Hippocratic oath, which is an oath that states that the doctor is supposed to rip you off from all your money and not tell you anything. It says it in an oath. It says, whatever I have, I'm going to keep it within my disciples. That's why they write in Latin and talk in Latin, because they're not allowed to educate you. It's in the oath. And it says they're going to rip you off of all your money. That's in the oath. It has very little to do with health. There's a contract that says, rip you off. And then it also says in there that they are not supposed to practice homosexuality because the doctors, and Hotep included, had like a caste system. Once you were in it, you were in it. But the Greeks took it a step further. They organized it better, and they included homosexuality in it. So most of the doctors were practicing faggots, as they say. They still are. But in any case, I just wanted you to know that sort of thing. Now, in African science, we got to start off from the beginning. We start off in the rhythm. Rhythm is the basis of our science. You call it arithmetic. Start off in rhythm. Once you get the rhythm going, then you start making steps, and that causes you to make geometric shapes. So we start studying arithmetic, and then we study geometry. That's how you study science. You have to study arithmetic, because arithmetic teaches you order. Law and order, it teaches you order. Rhythms are in cycles, patterns. Now let me show you what we're talking about. Quite easy. That picture's worth 1,000 words. That's what the Europeans said when they saw hieroglyphics. They thought our writings were pictures. They said, those pictures are worth 1,000 words. You're damn right, they were words. Arithmetic. Arithmetic comes from ah. The word da. Da means the power of. Rhythm. They took out the I and put in the Y. It means orderly. Beat. Cycles. Matic comes from mector, which means God. In other words, arithmetic means the power of the cycles of God. That's what we're going to talk about. Cycles and how they impact your body. That's arithmetic. Then you may want to know how it impacts you on the earth. Geo comes from geology, geography, all that sort of stuff. Geometry. Geo means earth, pattern, order, cycles. And metry, medu, God. The earth cycles of God. So that's what we're going to talk about. If you learn anything today, it's going to be black knowledge. If you think it came from white people, it's because they stole it. What we're doing is information reparation. This is inside of your third ventricle of your brain. You have these liquid-filled spaces inside your brain that have a lot of fluid in it, which they call holy waters. And this is the third ventricle. The ventricles on the left and right cool inside of it. Inside of this ventricle is what we call the anatomical third eye. This is the third eye. It's a transducer of information from the galaxy. Right there. That is the third eye. These are brain cells blown up to about the size of a car. And we're looking in the center of the brain. This looks like the galaxy, but it is not the galaxy. The galaxy is contained in it. We have these cycles inherent in our bodies. That's why chlorophyll, which in biology is chloroplast that goes around a little oblate cell. Anyway, this chlorophyll that you call in plants has a pattern. And when it makes a pattern, that's when it's able to convert sun energy to oxygen. Because oxygen is just another form of the sun. But without these patterns, without this rhythm, without this beat, without this pulse, that doesn't occur. They stop dancing at after 6 o'clock. That's when the plants stop dancing. They do have some other rhythms, like at 7 o'clock you have the rhythm that you call the African marigold opens at 7 o'clock in the morning. Passion flower opens up at 12 noon. Water lily opens up at 5, blossoms at 5 p.m. and the evening primrose does it at 6 p.m. Everything has these cycles that will happen without the sun. Because the sun is only reacting to an energy greater than itself. Now, this is what you were looking at. You were looking at the anatomical third eye, and this is how it looks. It has these patterns, these shapes, it spins. And this is going on inside of your brain at all times. What allows you to access this information is the melanin. In other words, you have inner space. Europeans have outer space. Now, because of this energy force in your body, this I got out of a brother named Watts' book, Ashby, showing the polarity in the system, the positive and negative. Positive, negative is just a symbol of an energy form. It doesn't mean energy is positive or energy is negative. This is just a language that we use. Understand, mathematics is a language. Mathematics is not a science. Mathematics is a language we use to explain things, but in and itself it's not a science. And this is just a way of explaining energy force fields in your body, in the male body and the female body. They are not opposites that you attract. That's a European concept. What causes them to attract is balance. Once they come together, the charge is neutralized. The whole objective in life is to adapt. It has nothing to do with opposites attracting. If opposites attract, then maybe a man should be attracted to a rock, because that's opposite. But we get involved in this European mythology, and we lose track of our African sense, and then we're taught to say that this common sense. So we have this polarity going on. I'm going to show you where that polarity comes about from in a moment here. We have this negative and positive expression of planetary principles. In other words, we have a male and female, if you like to use those terms. Or if you go into the Chinese, then you have the yin and the yang. But don't get hung up in the Chinese, because that will de-Africanize you. So we can call one male and one female. And this energy occurs with the sun. Positive energy, the radiation of spirit, creative and loving, pouring forth of self. That's why the Aborigines call the sun female and the moon male. Science is a language of a culture. If it doesn't lead you back to your culture, it's not your science. It has to lead you back to your culture. And this is what this is. This is your culture put in the language of planets. This is all you're studying. This is what math teaches you, your culture. This is what biology teaches you, your culture. If you think it's teaching you something else, you can learn it from the Europeans. Now, the moon, responsive, inner, contentment, flowing, adaptability, sense of self. Now, the negative expression of the sun is pride, arrogance, excessive desire to be special. You know, somebody has excessive desire to be special, we say that's the son of a bitch, right? Anyway, no problem. So we have this expressions of energy. Now let's just follow this along. Remember, I was showing you the positive and negative. Where did they come from? That comes from our universe, this expression of our universe. Positive is the black hole, which we call the black dot, which you call melanin. Follow me? The melanin makes light, which you call the white hole. This is how the energy is in the galaxy, in the universe. How it's all in your body. How it allows you to access the 4 moons around Jupiter. How it allows you to say that there's a Dogon star, because it's inside of you. It's inner space. It's not outer space. You've heard it. Everything you want is inside of you. God is inside. If you're looking outside of God, you're missing it. If you're looking outside of this energy, you're missing it. It's inside of you. The thing is how to utilize it. The horizon there. These are the forms of black hole that you hear a lot about, this black hole that all this energy gets sucked into, and people that just die and all that, how they just put this negative thing on melanin. You know all that stuff out there, this black that you see at night, is melanin. That's gas melanin. You got crystal melanin. You got liquid melanin. The problem is with the melanin is that its objective and desire is to act to protect you and to illuminate God within you. Now, in this attempt to actually protect you, if something's in your body and it's toxic, like alcohol, or vinegar, or salt, or some white idea, the melanin comes and grabs it and hopes to transport it out of your system. And when it does that, we call that a free radical scavenger. But if you're taking waste in your body, the melanin can't do that. So those centers where there's a high concentrated melanin, such as this, they're very toxic. All that dark you see there is melanin concentrations in that area there. See, we're talking about how energy behaves here. The energy of the universe, the galaxy. This is the behavior of energy. Like you talk about the behavior of bacteria. If it behaves this way, it's a parasite. This behavior. If it behaves this way, this symbiotic bacteria is good for you. If the energy behaves this way, it's a vitamin. If it behaves this way, it's a hormone. If it behaves this way, it's an enzyme. Because all enzymes are hormones and all hormones are vitamins. There is no difference. All we're talking about is behavior. If you behave this way, you're a thief. But you're still the same person. It's still the same energy. If you behave that way, you're a preacher. Oh, God forbid. I mean, God do forbid. Anyway, all I'm talking about is behavior. You got me. Praise God. So the melanin being high concentration in these areas here causes these areas to deteriorate if you're taking a lot of toxins. These toxins can come from radiation, can come from the synthetic chemicals in food, or it can come from what you call food itself, which are food artifacts. Synthetic products derived from food, but it's not food. You have a particle that's derived from a C complex.